or it'd be nice to have a recording to go back and review.
Sure, no problem. I just hit the record button starting now.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. So I had Belkasoft X up and all ready to go. And unfortunately, I didn't configure remote acquisition yet. But what I can do right now is kind of show you the layout of the product. And I also have a pre-recorded demo of this that I can talk through and kind of and show you that. And then also we'll be able to send the pre-recorded demo for remote acquisition to you along with this recording. So at any point that you do have questions, please just kind of reach out, yell at me, and I'll stop and try to answer them the best I can. Okay. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is the Belkasoft remote acquisition user interface. So it's very, very simple. There's not a whole lot to it, and that was kind of the point. So to get a quick layout, the machines that I have previously pushed agents to will show up here. If you were to actually be connected to one of these endpoints, this would be green instead of orange. All of these can be filtered. So say you have, 5,000 agents pushed out to, all the machines in your network. You could easily filter either by IP address, or if you assign it to a specific group or assign it a certain color, so on and so forth. All of these things can be filtered by selecting these little funnels at the top in the column area. So if I were to edit one of these, I would just select one of these endpoints, select edit, where I could enter manual information, assign it to specific groups, assign those colors, so on and so forth. I can open up my task log, and it'll show me all the things that I've done, as well as the status of the acquisitions that I've completed. So you can see when agents are deployed, when you started a backup, or you started a remote acquisition. All of that stuff will be in here and kind of show you a server log for your own your own analysis there. So going back to endpoints, the first thing that we would do is we would go to server settings, and this will pop up automatically whenever you start up Belkasoft remote acquisition. Now this server local IP address, this is going to be the forensic workstation that your product is running off of. So wherever this dongle or what have you is on this computer, it will be that IP address. If you are going to be jumping outside of a network, so not your internal network, which it sounds like maybe you will be, you would need your public facing IP on the outside of your router put right here. You can use SSL for Windows-based machines. If you need information, we got this little I need more info button, which will pop up a remote acquisition user reference, which will kind of show you how to set up your server settings and how to enable the SSL, so on and so forth. It's all the way down to deploying agents out to specific boxes. So currently, I've got an IP address set for my machine. I just entered in a random port that I knew wasn't being used, and I select OK. From here, it'll say deploy agents. And because I just stood this up and haven't pushed any new agents with my new IP address here, I select deploy, and it's going to say, hey, you have 7 endpoints to go because I have 3 currently in use. The base package of Belkasoft remote acquisition comes with 10 endpoints. It's important to note that if I send an endpoint downrange, I deploy an agent to an endpoint downrange. If it successfully connects and turns green on my user interface here, that agent is gone. So it basically burns the agent. However, you can leave that agent on that machine and acquire it as many times as you want. So as long as that agent does not get removed from that machine, it will always be there, and you can always log back into that machine and acquire that box. So you can see that we have support for both Windows and Mac. So as I'm developing these agents, it'll say, okay, how are you going to deploy them? So if I'm going to deploy, are you guys primarily Windows-based, pretty heavy mix of Windows and Mac?
We are primarily Windows, but there is a growing section of Mac use as well.
Okay, all right. So I'll start with Windows here, and then you can see here there's 3 different options. So it's just based on where you are and based on where your endpoints are located. So, you know, if you were all in the same building, operating on the same network, and your agents didn't have to leave the network, you would say, hey, we're in the same address range as my remote acquisition. If they're on the outside of a router, then you would choose that one. If you're both on the outside of a router, you know, going to different networks, you would choose this one. For the purpose of this demonstration, because this is where mine would be, I would select next. Again, if you're not really sure what this means, we do have that button down there that will kind of walk you through which one is best for you. So I'd select next. With the local demonstration here, I have 3 different options. Local, which means that I can use a network share, I can use a USB dongle or something, which is not something it sounds like you guys will really be doing. But probably like SSH, you could push the agents via that. Next, we have a group policy object. Again, same network. If you have your network administrators push GPO to all your machines with the agent, this will actually build a GPO package for you to be pushed out. And finally, we have the Windows Management Instrumentation, which just requires an administrative username and password in order to push the actual agent. So if I go back and select this one, saying, hey, my endpoints are on the outside of my address range, you'll notice that I only have 2 options. Obviously, my group policy object won't work because we're on different networks and can't push it out. So these are actually going to be the 2 options that you're going to have for the rest of these. Now, if I go to Mac, it doesn't matter which one we select, we only get local because it's a Mac, doesn't have Windows Management Instrumentation, doesn't have a group policy object. So this is going to require that network share or SSH or a USB dongle. So if I go to Windows, select this, select next, and then select local, I would then have to specify what IP address I'm trying to send the agent to. Now this is local, so this is going to be individual based. I don't have another one. Like I said, I didn't have this set up, or else I would have already had it set up for you. So I'd have to get another computer up online and grab a USB and all that to deploy it. So if you'd like, I can just play a video that kind of shows you what happens after this. Or I can take the time to set this up. It's up to y'all.
We start with the video, and if we have any questions that can't be answered, we can dive into it more.
Ashton, are you speaking? It was very quiet.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Still a little quiet. I think what Ashton said was we can start with the video, and if we have questions that can't be answered with it, we can go into the deeper dive.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Sorry, apparently my microphone defaulted back to my laptop. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll work. So I will start with the video. Let me go ahead and grab it real quick. Thank you for joining us for the Belkasoft remote acquisition demonstration. My name is Jared Lubert. I am a forensic sales engineer for Belkasoft. Can you all hear that?
Yeah,
it is a little echoey.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is turn my mic off and then let that play. Let's see. Fast forward a little bit so I'm not covering what I just covered.
Yeah. Now we can't hear anything, Jared.
Yeah, it's not playing yet. I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
Of sales here in North America. So we also have the ability to acquire RAM. So that's the artifacts and images from remote. I'll then dive into a product demonstration on Belkasoft remote acquisition. So that will be the agenda for today. And without further ado, I will begin. So what is Belkasoft Remote Acquisition? Well, Belkasoft Remote Acquisition is a digital forensic and instant response software that acquires artifacts and images from remote endpoints. We have the ability to acquire the following items. It could be a remote hard drive or removable drive, selected artifacts if you don't want to acquire the entire hard drive, connected mobile devices, Apples and Androids. Now, this is going to be in Windows machines only, but I will show you that a little bit later on. We also have the ability to acquire RAM. So that's the incorporation of Belkasoft's free RAM capture tool. That's live RAM capture. It's available at belkasoft.com/get. So supported operating systems when it comes to remote acquisition will be Windows and Mac OS platforms. So now what I'm going to do is talk about the agent deployment methods. How we can manage to send this agent remotely to be an administrative startup for this particular final Windows deployment locally from your. Next is an agent deployment. It will include your forensic hash logical acquisition of these drives. This will include your forensic hash verification, and as well as allow you to schedule when you want to acquire it, how you want to store the image, whether on the endpoint, a network share, or send it directly back to the remote acquisition. And you can actually choose when to send it back if you choose to compress it and save it on the endpoint until then. When it comes to artifacts, we would select a logical drive. You browse onto that logical drive, and then you have the option to pick specific artifacts based on categories such as audio, browsers, chats, cloud services, etc. You can pick these types of files or these types of artifacts. So you're basically doing a triage remotely and only grabbing what's absolutely necessary. Next is mobile devices. We do support Android and iOS devices. There are 3 options that are available when it comes to acquisition of mobile devices remotely. Again, these mobile devices have to be connected to a Windows machine with the agent on it. Now, it's not magic. You still have to set the phone up the same way you would set it up locally. So if I want to acquire an Android, my first bet is to unlock the phone, go into settings, enable developer options, enable USB debugging, and enable stay awake. So this all still has to be done on that remote phone in order for it to be acquired. And same goes for iOS, the standard setup for iOS devices. Again, it's not magic, but it does allow you to be in multiple places at one time. If you have somebody else that can set the phone up, you can acquire it. So the 3 different options that are available for Android are the ADB backup, the MTP PTP, your media transfer protocol, picture transfer protocol. That'll be your pictures, videos, audio files, maybe a few applications. And then the final is a full file system copy if you found yourself a rooted device. Now, it's important to note that Belkasoft does not root devices, nor do they jailbreak devices, but they do support the acquisition of such. Moving into iOS devices, we have the 3 options, basically the same as Android, but in a iOS fashion. So we have an iTunes backup. We have AFC, Apple File Conduit, which is going to be just like MTP and
We seem to have lost audio there, Jared.
Now, are you guys planning on acquiring mobile devices at all?
Probably not.
Okay. I just didn't know if this was kind of useless information for you all, or if it would be valuable, at least when it comes to the mobile devices.
I think we could probably skip it for now.
Okay.
It's something that is a nice to have, but not a top priority.
Understood. All right. I just didn't want to waste y'all's time, so I'm going to go ahead and skip through this. Please excuse my my choppy video. I'm just trying to get to something that we haven't covered. PTP, your pictures, videos, are them, which can be very handy. Not the internal Macintosh acquisition options are very handy. Okay, and the macOS acquisition options that are available here are the disk drive. So we can acquire connected physical drives. not the internal Macintosh hard drive. To this, at this specific point in time, I'm not sure of really many forensic software products that can do this. Now, with that being said, if you have a drive connected to the Mac, we can get a full file system copy of that, a bit for bit full system image of that drive. Now, we can, on the flip side of that, to kind of get around it, I know we're not going to get everything, but we can acquire files and folders. So we can do all files and folders, and by specifying the remote folder path that we want to acquire in the Macintosh hard drive to be root. So if we acquire the root folder, we are getting any file that is stored on the Mac itself. Okay, and I had already spoke about these a little bit, but this is a nice little slide that I was telling you about. To Belkasoft Remote Server looks like upon first launch. Now, you won't have the endpoints that I have here, the 3 that I have, but you will have everything but these 3. You'll notice up at the top left-hand corner, I have the number of endpoints that I have. You'll notice some cool colors. These colors mean things, and I'll get into what they mean. This is meant to be super simple and super easy for the examiner. So the first thing I want to do is dive into how to set up your remote acquisition server. You're the IP often, just so I'm not leaving of through how to complete it. Again, 7 more endpoints. When you deploy that agent from that dirty of this is my network. These are the 3 options on a router, right? So we've just covered all the different deployment options for Windows. Now we're going to jump into Mac. And as I stated, there's deployment, a USB, a main page of remote acquisition. So let's look at these 3 hosts here. So I've deployed 3 agents. You'll see here that I have an accounting, a MacBook Pro. I've got another Mac OS platform, and you can see these platforms, what their actual platforms are over here under OS platform. And then I have a Windows machine. Now, you're probably wondering what these colors are. Well, orange means that there's an agent on this machine, but it's not currently connected to the remote acquisition server. And green, you guessed it, it's connected to the remote acquisition server. If I select this MacBook Pro and try to acquire it, nothing will happen. Now, what I can do is edit this. If I select the edit button, you'll notice I've highlighted the endpoint. I selected edit, and now I can come in and change all of this information. I can assign it a color for quick sorting. I can give it a description so I know what machine it is. Notice that if I had ever acquired anything from that machine, its date timestamp will be listed. It would tell me what the status of that acquisition was, the path, the platform, the last time that endpoint connected, who it's assigned to based on what I set it to, and so on. Now, before I dive any further, I just wanted you to see that there are little funnels next to all of these. Well, that's for sorting. So say I sent out thousands of agents, and I assigned all agents on HR platforms the color blue. I would go and filter by colors, select the color, and say, only show me blue. Select apply. Now I'm only looking at the endpoints that have an agent on, say, an HR workstation. If I want to reset this, I just click it, select reset to default, and all my endpoints are back. Another way that we can look at this is instead of the grid view that we're currently in, we can come up here and select the list view. Selecting list view kind of gives you a baseball card view approach to your endpoints. So it's all up to you, however you want to look at it. This is really just here for user preference. I like to keep it in grid because it's compact, and I like simple. So that's where I'm going to keep mine for now. All right. So moving on, one thing I also want to mention is looking at all the information that's available here. If I were to select this endpoint and select edit, you'll notice I can't change the client IP name. I can't change the client port. I can't change the path, the platform, the domain. So only things that you can change are going to pop up and allow you to change them. This task button, this basically is like a log for anything you've ever done with your remote acquisition. You can say, okay, look, you created a disk image. You created an ADB backup. Very, very cool. There is a server log button that does give you a full log of the server deployment, acquisition, and so on. All right, moving back to endpoints. Now what I want to walk through is the acquisition methods. So I select the one that's green because that's the one that's connected to my remote acquisition server. I select acquire because it's now blue. Select acquire, and these are the 4 acquisition options that I was telling you about. Again, if I were to select, say, a Mac and it was online and select acquire, I would get something like disk drive, and it would try to find connected drives. Or I would get something called files and folders. Those are the 2 options for Mac acquisitions. All right, selecting a drive. What it's doing now is it is querying that remote computer. It's identifying what drives are available. Hovering over the drives gives you information about the drive. Sometimes you're lucky enough to get a serial number drive model in here. You'll notice this is a physical drive and a logical drive. So if I wanted to do a full system image of that drive, it wants me to choose whether I want to transfer that image directly back to my remote acquisition server, or if I want to store the image on the endpoint before the upload. Now this does allow for compression to save space. So just for the sake of this demonstration, I will go ahead and do that. If I select next, you'll see that I have 2 different image formats that I can acquire this image with. I can do either a DD raw image, or I can do an E01. We have the checksum, SHA-1, 256, MD5, selecting one of these or 2 of these, and verifying output, always a great idea. If you're planning on transferring this around, you can create a multi-part image. You can chunk it up into sizes of your choosing. So let's just say you want to do 10 meg chunks. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but it's an option. So you can make it however big or however small you want and create that multi-part image so it'll transfer a little bit easier. Select next, and it says, okay, thank you for those settings. Now, when the acquisition should start, do you want to do it now? Do you want to start it maybe this evening whenever your employees go home for work? When do you want to upload it to the server? Do you want to upload it when it's complete? How about overnight so the bandwidth is not taken up in the middle of the day? And how about delete the local image? Okay, well that's good. We don't want to leave an image on that local endpoint. So you can check this box and choose to delete the local image upon the completion of sending it back to your remote server. I select next, we'll get a verification screen saying, okay, this is the IP address. It's scheduled to start at 1920. This is the endpoint image path. This is where it is acquiring from. This is the server image path, and this is what the image name is going to be. You can see that these are variable based, but you can certainly change this to whatever you want it to be. So this is kind of your, hey, check your settings. This is what you chose to do. You wanted a raw image format. You wanted it multi-part. You had SHA-1, MD5, and you wanted to verify output. And then you would select start. Now I'm not going to do this, but that was basically a walkthrough of how that's done. So let's go back to acquire. Let's go to artifacts, and you can see that we have the logical drives for us to choose from. Now we can always refresh this to try to get new drives if someone plugs one in while we're attempting to acquire. But from here, okay, let's just go into C drive, and then we'll go through the whole order again. Do you want to transfer it back, or do you want to store an image and then load it later? For this one, let's just transfer an image directly. So I select next. Let's do SHA-1 and verify output. And now we get to pick what artifacts we actually want to acquire. Now I can choose all, or I can click audio, select specific audio files. I can choose chats and select specific chats. I can go mail and go by different operating platforms. So I can do all mail. I can do Outlook. I mean, you name it. You basically can do really whatever you want. Just grab what you want, select next. And again, when do you want to start it? Do you want to do it now? Do you want to do it later? Select next, look at your options, and select start. Super simple. It's not meant to be complicated. All right, mobile. I'm not going to dive into this too much because I already talked about it. Here's your 3 options. And they have to be connected to a Windows appropriately in order to local machine. Give me a image upon completion, and begin. Start it then, up. Acquire the RAM of your local machine to acquire them. Okay, and RAM, acquire the RAM of your local machine. Give me a SHA checksum. Don't worry about verifying the output. Start it then, upload it now, delete the local image upon completion, and begin. super simple. You can see it's saved in non-proprietary image format of .mem, and that's also something I want to touch on as well. So if you were to acquire a iPhone backup or something, you would get a tar file. If you wanted to acquire the Android backup with ADB, you'd get an AB file. So these aren't proprietary image files that can't be loaded into any tool. They're standard image formats, and they can be loaded into any tool of your choosing, but I would recommend Belkasoft X. Okay, let's move back. So those are your acquisition options. Again, that is the extent of Belkasoft Remote Acquisition. Again, super simple. Okay, so that's kind of the video, kind of showing you guys the different options that are available for acquisitions, the deployment options that I was talking about in your situation where you're likely, like you said, work from home. I don't know if you have some sort of work setup where you're somehow using like a work laptop and you're all on the same network, or however that works out. I mean, that's going to be, I'm not sure how to do that, what you guys have exactly. However, deploying the agent is very, very simple, and especially if you're on the same network range. If not, it's just a matter of doing some port forwarding in order to allow the agent through the router onto the target network. And that's really it. So also, I just want to throw this out there because a lot of people, for some reason, want some sort of like clandestine, covert agent. This will not be that. This little R that you see at the bottom of the screen, that will pop up on the endpoint while you're trying to acquire it. So if being covert is something you're looking for, this will not do that. Now we can kind of dive into like specific questions you may have regarding remote acquisition, and leave us a little bit of time for the actual analysis portion of the memory of the image files that we've just collected. So any sort of questions you have, I can start answering those.
Yeah, we actually do have a couple questions. So if you were going to acquire a machine and you did select to leave the image on the machine before acquiring, is there any type of indicator for the remaining disk space on the drive? And would it do any type of check to say, there's not enough space on the remote drive to leave the image on the drive before acquisition?
What it would do is just error out. Unfortunately, it's not gonna say, hey, there's this much space available. It would just error out and say, hey, the space was full, and so you would know at that point. But unfortunately, you'd have to restart the acquisition.
So if the drive was, say, 70% full, would the software fill up the entire disk and then error out?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Couple other questions. Does the software support encrypting the acquired images?
So you can use SSL for Windows-based connections, but as far as encryption, they are not.
All right. And you mentioned the agent pops up. Does the agent start on boot, or does a user have to log in before the agent will start up?
The user does have to be logged in.
Okay.
So the machine has to be on and online in order to connect to the remote server. Now, if you did some sort of like batch script or something for it to run on startup, that can be done as well. It's just not done through the actual software.
But the machine can be locked?
The machine has to be unlocked.
Okay. That is all of my questions.
All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Does the agent support the ability to not allow users to disable it in any way, or is it
Not within the software. That'd have to be something set up on the individual's network.
Okay.
All right. Do you all want me to jump into Belkasoft X to kind of show you the actual analysis? So this one doesn't actually have the remote acquisition option available, but you can acquire like local drives and cloud-based accounts and everything else within Belkasoft X, just not the actual pushing of agents like I just showed you with remote acquisition.
That would be fine. Real quick though, if you start an acquisition with the user logged in and the device unlocked, and there is a policy for the computer to lock, let's say in 15 minutes or so, will that interrupt the acquisition?
I do not think so, as long as the computer's on once it's started.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there's no more at this time, what I'll do is transition over. I think we've got about 20 minutes left, and so I'll kind of run through this to kind of show you how you could easily analyze all of the system images and everything that you've just acquired. So this is the screen that you'll be presented with as soon as you open up Belkasoft X. You can easily create a case and enter in, the name of it, the investigator, your time zone, so on and so forth, where it's saved. If I do an open case, this will be any cases that I've ever completed on this forensic workstation. I can select and open. It also gives you an idea of what types of artifacts are present within the case, and you can see how many artifacts came from those specific data sets. I've already got one open, and so I'm not going to open it. Settings, this is going to be where you'll tailor kind of how you want it to work, how many CPUs and memory cache you want to assign to indexing your case, the language, the font size, the themes, darker light, how you like your date time formats laid out inside the program. These are kind of like quick profiles. And so, if you're going to be loading in Linux images or iOS images or Windows images, and you're always looking for like the same types of artifacts, you can kind of set these profiles up to easily just say, hey, analyze this image based on this profile. So that's something you can do. Come in and change the category names of your bookmarks. Now there's only 10 categories, but you could have like 5,000 bookmarks under each category if you wanted to. So you're not limited to 10 bookmarks. Carving, if you wanted to carve something specific, this is just kind of an example saying, hey, there was a Bitcoin wallet that was shredded on a system image, and I found a common characteristic of the Bitcoin wallet, stripped its header, and threw it in here and tried to carve a new image for any sort of Bitcoin wallet. So that's just kind of an idea of how that can be used. Analyzing pictures and stuff, such as skin and face detection. These are sensitivity levels. How many false positives do you want to see? And then if you do analyze pictures for pornography, you can blur them if they're detected, as well as to unblur the face, so you don't actually have to see the picture, just the face. Going into video, you can break your videos up into frames per second and frame similarity, so you don't have to watch the whole thing, kind of see something that pops out. We also have an integration where you can use VirusTotal through Belkasoft. So you get your own personal API key, and then you can actually browse to the file system, right-click a single file or even an entire data source and analyze it against VirusTotal to see if there's any known malwares on the system. So that's the settings tab. Product reference guide, that's just your user help guide. It's about 200 some odd pages. You can Control F and easily jump to a section that you're looking for. This is a manually check for updates. It'll let you know if you're on the latest version or there is an update. And then license information, this will tell you the available modules, what you have and what's not available to you. These little videos over here, these kind of get you started videos. So if you have questions while getting started, there's like 3 to 5 minutes, all voiced over by James. So those are just little helpful videos. Any questions on this screen here?
Nope.
Okay.
We're good.
Jumping into the dashboard. So this is where you kind of, where you create your reports, where you search for words and phrases, create your evidence reader exports, key dictionary files, and so on. And also where you would add additional data sources once you've added your initial. So over here on the left-hand side, our case properties, you can see these little pencils that allows you to edit all of this information. You can't edit when it was created or where it's stored. If I want to add my data source, this would be, where you can either do a drive local or a phone local or a cloud account local, or in this case where you've just acquired something with remote acquisition, I would go to add existing, say an image file, and then I would browse wherever I stored it. And you can see all the different types of image files that are supported within Belkasoft X. So it's pretty large list here. And you can see we also support like virtual machines. So if the image that you've acquired had virtual machines on them, you don't have to actually know that the virtual machines are there. Belkasoft X will identify it, pull it apart, separate it, and analyze it separately from the actual system image. Same for folder. You just select a folder that you've acquired if you did like specific artifacts and all that, as well as memory dumps. You can see we support page files, hyperfills, and .mems. And we can actually load Linux, Windows, and ARM memory dumps into Belkasoft X for analysis. Again, add data source. If I were going to acquire, you can see I can do a disk drive. It'll find local disks for me to acquire, just as you could in remote acquisition, as well as cloud accounts. So iCloud, WhatsApp, Microsoft Office, Google, specific types of email. There's close to 25, 30 emails that are available. If you have like a proprietary email at your work, you could say, hey, my email service is not listed, select next, enter in the specific email password and email server that you're using, and you can acquire email accounts that way as well. Over here under search artifacts, this is going to be your global search feature for words or phrases. So you can treat it as regular expression. If you have a word list you want to search through, we also have predefined search. So if it's, you don't really know exactly what you're looking for, just kind of give you an idea. This is continuously being updated. And then you can also target your searches. So if you only want to look through, say, your memory dump, this will show you only artifacts that are available in that specific memory dump. So you see there's only like 5 here. And if I change this to this Android backup, let's do this one, you can see I have many different types of artifacts. So you can easily target your searches instead of searching across all of your data sources. Going to create a report, we have many different formats available. If you would like to tailor it, you go to advanced options, do item sorting, how you want to present it, who generated it, your company's logo, splitting your artifacts up by file, grouping your artifacts by, say, a specific contact or a specific mail folder, whether or not you want to include pictures that you found that were embedded in, say, chats or whatever, those can be included right here, as well as, what columns you want to include for your report. So this is where you'll specifically tailor your reports. And then your folders. Do you want to create subfolders where everything has its own individual folder, or do you just want everything in one folder from right here? Export to evidence reader. I'm sorry.
Quick question: does that include file carving for unlinked files and slack space and stuff as well?
So let's see. Go back to report, advanced options. You mean in here? Or
for the files where you were specifically talking about photos and things and attachments, does that include unlinked files and file carving and so on as well?
Yeah. So whenever you go to actually analyze your system image, there is a selection that says analyze embedded and carved files. And so what you have to do there, and I'll show you what that looks like. Let me jump out of here real quick. If I go to my artifacts and go to encrypted files, you see not processed here. That's because I didn't analyze the carved and embedded files. So you would have to select that. And then all of these would be listed as processed. And then they could be included as files in your reports.
Gotcha.
Export to evidence reader. This will allow you to share specific evidence with somebody without sharing everything. And so, say someone wants to see specific chat messages, I could easily say, okay, for Androids, let's see, I can share, let's just say email or something for now. So now I'm only going to share any emails from that Android backup. I'm not actually just sharing the entire case. They'll be given so let me go ahead and select next. I can do copy evidence reader executables. And so that's going to give the executable for the evidence reader. And then you can also do save media files. So any of the pictures that are present in that specific grouping of artifacts that we're going to share will be present in a folder along with the evidence reader. And so they'll just double click the executable. It'll open up a GUI just like Belkasoft X. I think it's got a different color scheme to separate it, but it's free. The person doesn't have to have Belkasoft to view it. And they can, create bookmarks. They can search. They can tag. They can't remove and they can't add to the evidence that you shared with them. Create a key dictionary file. This is very helpful if you're trying to get into, say multiple devices from the same person or, whatever. It's going to find potential passwords in the data source that you have, create that dictionary file, which then can be used to try to, say, brute force encrypted documents and so on. Real quick to kind of touch on what I just talked about with that. Say these are encrypted files. Passware can be integrated into Belkasoft X. It's a file decryption module, but it allows you to say, so these are all encrypted documents. It'll let you know if it can actually decrypt the documents and how fast it would be, and kind of the protection features that it found within the specific documents. It'll tell you how you need to go about and do it, as well as once it cracks the password, that will be presented over here. So if I wanted to say for this fast brute force, its details, I would right click brute force password, and then it would give me the option to add the dictionary file that I just made on the other page. I can add a password configuration file that has specific types of brute forcing attacks. I can also add in, say like rock.u.txt files or any other sort of dictionary files that can be loaded in to try to crack the passwords of these encrypted files. Going back to the dashboard, these are automatic searches. These are always here, whether you want them or not, just because, they're supposed to be helpful for examiners. So if you're looking for something specific, it will use regular expression to try to pull these things out. Now, because they use regular expression, it doesn't always mean that they're going to be accurate. It's just that it met that criteria. So if I go to email addresses, you can see it's going to be something@something.com or .something, right? And so it doesn't necessarily have to be like this. Obviously, isn't an email address. It's just based on regular expression. So that's there to help, and it's always just going to be there. So do with that what you will. Over here is the data sources. If I close all these up, you can see that we have show nested data sources. And if we look down here at the bottom, I loaded this E01 file in, and it found a page file and 2 Android backups nested within here, pulled them out, and analyzed them separately. So that'll actually allow you to dig into those individually, as opposed to being all combined into the E01 here at the bottom. If you don't want to show them, we just get rid of them, and then it's back to here. So these are hyperlinked, and you can see analyze with errors. All that means is that if I double click this, it'll open up my task tab, and it'll tell me what errored out. And it looks like it's just because I canceled decrypting files. And that pretty much, this operation failed to complete. Exporting evidence, I just stopped it. So that's what that would say as well. So it'll tell you if it analyzes errors. You can hover over this and give you an idea of what you selected. Whenever you see this analyze carved and embedded data, that's what I was talking about with the files and stuff being included. That had to be selected yes in order for those files to be processed. But this gives you an idea of what you selected while you were analyzing that particular case. Okay, over here on the right-hand side, this is just going to give you an idea of how many artifacts, either based on an application type or artifacts in general, from highest to lowest on the system. So the Opera application had the most artifacts, and my Wi-Fi connection application had the least amount of artifacts. Now, these are artifacts in general, so the highest number of artifacts I had was pictures, and the lowest was Wi-Fi connections and malware processes files. So these are hyperlinked, so I can automatically jump to these. So let's just go to, say, geolocation data, and then it'll take me to the geolocation data tabs in the artifacts view. Any questions before I jump into this real quick? I know we've only got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to try to cover as much as I can.
Looks good so far.
Okay. So real quick, on the left-hand side, you'll see structure and overview. Overview is going to be a combination of all of these data sources. And so if I want to individually look at artifacts, I would jump over to structure, and you can see all my individual artifacts broken out. Underneath my E01, my nested data sources, and the actual volume. And so I can select these and then go into my individual artifacts. So my chats, whatever application this is, let's just say Skype, right? So we can see our Skype conversations for this specific data source in Bubble Chat view. I can create reports from here, so I can see my Bubble Chat. I can add or remove filters. I can filter by participants, what data source they came from, whether or not it was found in to be deleted, and whether or not it include attachments or whatever direction it was going. So there's a lot of filters there that can be applied to kind of tailor your communication. Another really cool feature here within, say, the chats feature here, I can right click, show contacts, and it'll actually break up the contacts, like all the conversations for the user of this specific Skype count. So if you're looking for chats between specific people, you can see, okay, well, this Belkasoft test 2 had the most chats with Belkasoft test. And so if I select Belkasoft test 2, I'm only going to see the conversation between those two people. Over here on the right-hand side, I got my properties. If there's any sort of EXIF data on other types of items, that would be here. Down here at the bottom, I can see item text for specific artifacts. I can look at the hex. I can open up a full screen hex viewer. I can search through the hex. I can match the case. I can bookmark hex. So let's see. This looks important. I bookmark it. Now I have bookmarked hex. If I go to, let's say, the top of the file, bookmark something else, I can choose edit bookmarks. And now I have my 2 bookmarks. So the one I just made, I can edit it, give it a description, important because, if I can spell, select OK. And then I can jump back to the bookmark that I previously had. So it's very easy to jump back in between. I sometimes get lost in hex, so it's kind of a nice feature. So going back, SQLite database, you can look at it as well down here on the bottom screen. It will tell you what type of record it came from, whether it was a free list, whether it was a write-ahead log or a journal file. That will all be listed here. So these were marked for deletion, so it says it found in a free list. I can open this up into a full screen viewer, so we can view it just like that. So you can also browse, say the structure of the database as well as the data, all your different rows and tables over here. Let's see. So that kind of does it for the that. Let's go back into overview. Down here at the bottom, you can see system files. So when USB devices were connected, network connections, proxies, applications set to run at startup, IP settings, all of that types of information, system files can be found, as well as registry files and so on. Up here at the top, we have a mini timeline. What this does is gives you the option to click and drag. And so it's going to say, okay, I don't know if that was just a click and drag. And so if I look over on the left-hand side, I'll say, hey, there's roughly this many artifacts in the time period you did a click and drag because it's not specific. We just, we didn't set specific times. To clear this, I single click in the mini timeline. All of my artifacts are back. If I want to do a more specific search, I'll go up here to the right, click this little funnel in the top right-hand corner, go to date range, and I can put my dates that I want to filter by, and then I'll have a more specific time frame. Let's go into our file system view. So this is where we can drop down and dig into specific artifacts in the file system. Let's say I go into this Android browser. I can filter by name. I can actually, let's go into E01. We'll do a recursive view in the top right-hand corner. So I'm going to get everything under the E01. If I do a name, you can see that you can filter by operands. So contains, is, starts with, ends with, in, gives you a kind of a fine tuning to look for what it is that that you're searching for within the file system. So a lot of different features here for filtering. Another thing that I like about this is that down here at the bottom, say I dug really deep into something. That wasn't very deep, but you can see down here at the bottom, I've got my little hyperlinked timeline of where I'm at, my folder structure, and I can jump back to a specific point instead of getting lost in the file system. Next is the connection graph. So this is kind of cool. I'm going to reset this real quick to show you what it looks like in the beginning. So this is any sort of connections between nodes or data sources. So you can see that this guy is obviously my main communicator here, so it's probably their device. In order to kind of fix this and make it look better, I hide titles so I can see just nodes. And now what I want to do is filter by nodes and neighbors. And so let's find Mary Poppins. I select Mary Poppins. I do a filter by nodes and neighbors. And now I'm only going to see who Mary Poppins was talking to. And I can click and drag these and kind of make it however I'd like. I can zoom in, I can zoom out. But let's just say I click on Sebastian over here on the left-hand side. Anything it knows about that contact will be listed over here. Their phone numbers, their address, their nicknames, their emails, so on and so forth. If I click on Mary Poppins, same thing. I get her information. If I want to see what is connecting these two, I select the link between the two of them. I can pull this over, and now I can see any sort of communication linking the two of them. Not only can I see it here, I can create reports from here. Right-click, create report. I can see, it'll be broken out by artifact.
We lost you, Jared. Jared, you there? Very good. Does anybody else hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, not sure what happened to Jared. Jared, we lost your mic, buddy.
I'm not seeing his screen move either, so it's possible he lost internet connectivity.
Connection. That's possible too. Do you guys have any?
Yep, he's
comments,
gone now.
Any comments, questions, concerns about how things are? What you've seen so far?
I think one thing we'd like to see if he comes back in the next 4 minutes would be how it is capable with cloud storage and forensics on that as well, not just
Cloud storage.
device.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you mean the ability to acquire the cloud? Because I thought we covered that earlier, but we could do that again. I'm confused as to what specifically you're looking for. I'm sorry.
I think Jared mentioned that there was a cloud native connector from this application, like just kind of understanding what that interface looks like and how it differs, like
Yeah.
things like S3 buckets and
Stream
storage accounts in Azure.
Yeah. Jared, are you back? Let me see if I can't connect with him on a separate source. Be right back, guys.
Absolutely.
Hey, can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
I don't know what happened. I just lost internet here, so I had to reconnect to a hotspot.
Okay, cool.
I apologize about
They
that.
were asking about, but I'll let them ask it because they can probably do a better job than I can. But something about cloud. But go ahead, gentlemen.
Yeah, we were just saying you mentioned at the very beginning when you pulled up Evidence Center X about how you can natively connect to cloud resources as well. We just wanted to see what the interface looked like on that before we dropped.
Sure. Yeah. James, do you mind sharing the screen again?
Oh, sure. Did that because you lost connection? You probably did. Yeah, give me a moment. I have two connections for you. I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to connect to. The J, I guess, huh? Here we go. I'll do this one. Here we go. Is that you?
Perfect.
You good?
Yep.
Awesome.
All right. You all see the screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So let me go back, add data source. I'll go to acquire, go to cloud. Is there a specific one you want to see?
No, just want to see the list. Do you guys actually support cloud native storage like Azure or Azure storage accounts or things of that nature as well?
So just the Microsoft Office 365 and
So basically the SaaS. So basically like the SaaS email providers and things like that.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So say like Google, you can see the different types of things. So basically the Google Suite that can be acquired. Again, the emails, iCloud, and iCloud backups. That's just going to be for mobile backup stuff. And that's going to be like iCloud storage, and then WhatsApp, obviously, in Microsoft Office.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks. That answered our question, I think.
Okay. So basically, I think I've kind of showed you everything but the timeline, and I think we've also ran out of our time. And so real quick, this is what it looks like. You can filter by the data source, which ones you want to view. You can filter by artifacts, event types. And same thing, when I go over here to text, I go over here to text and select this filter, I get the same operands and stuff. So contains, is, starts with, ends. Also, I can rearrange how I like my timeline view by doing choose columns and putting, whatever I want and selecting OK. And now my text is going to be up by everything else over here in the front. So that's just kind of a quick down and dirty of Belkasoft X. So, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, Jared, could you show them the contact information?
Yep. Let me go back to said PowerPoint. Go to contact. And so the sales, obviously that's James up there, the JC, and you can reach him on this phone number. If you have technical support questions, you can dial this number. This is mine. And this is also my email, jl@belkasoft.com.
Sounds good. I actually screenshotted that and put it in chat for everybody that was on our side.
Okay, great.
Right. And then if you guys want to, we can get you set up with instead of like going to the website to download a limited trial version, if you'd like, we can, for proof of concept purposes, set you up with a electronic Belkasoft license for 30 days. And I can even get you set up with a Belkasoft remote acquisition tool with 2 agents.
Okay.
Just let me know when you guys want to start that, and we'll get you all set up.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your guys' time today. Have a great
Thank you,
Friday.
gentlemen, for joining us, and I'll be giving you a shout probably sometime mid next week. I'm taking Monday and Tuesday off. Tuesday my birthday, so just kind of falls in line with the Memorial Day holiday. But I'll be back on Wednesday, so if you need anything, don't hesitate to give me a shout.
Thanks so much. Have a great long weekend and happy birthday.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Have a great
Thank you.
Bye.